And we are back. It's Peshcats here with Phillip McKay. We're going to be taking a look at the level 1s and 0s of Kiznaiver, starting with the 1-0 Tenga, which I'm not actually necessarily sold on this yet. I've been hearing a lot of horror stories about help, this is a 6K beater. What do? But apparently Philip's been having a lot of success with this card.
Yeah, okay. So there's a couple things that made this card busto. So it doesn't have a bond.
Thank
So what
goodness.
people are doing, yeah, okay, sure. Sure, I'll pay that. So it doesn't have a bond. So what that means is you play this card, you swing with it, you get your combo, and then it dies. And then the build that runs Utah suddenly does not have a good level 1 board because all you're fielding are bombs and some sort of mediocre 1-0 that's not this. Because presumably you're not going to be able to field 2 and then go into 2 again. Although if you can, Magical Weiss Schwarz land is fantastic. But now we have the 1-0 Noriko support, and that means you can clock encore this. And that means you can loop it, which is fantastic. And I think that makes this card better than it was before. There's also another card that got released that I mentioned in my video, which is 0-0 unplay Lv1s Tenga. On attack, give one of your characters plus 1k. I'm sure we'll see it later on. That card makes this card better because now we have what I like to call the Hyper Axel Tenga build, which is where you mill through 17 cards per turn every turn from turn 4 onwards. And
17, what is this? Draw, clock, draw 2, trigger 3 times, mill 3, brainstorm with and
brainstorm or Azusa,
and use 2 Tenga effects or something?
Pretty much. That's 17 cards. It's pretty.
I'll do the math
funny.
later.
It's 17 exactly.
Okay.
And that's pretty troll. Not gonna lie.
Okay, so what I think is the biggest draw to this card is obviously its potential to plus you more than pretty much any other climax combo in the game on no cost. Yeah. That is absolutely a strength of this card. That being said, the cards that you're adding to your hand are only level 1 and higher cards, and if you're at level 1, then half of the time those cards aren't even going to be playable yet. At the same time, there's a lot of very, very good level 0 utility that if you were playing another deck, you would have the option to add those cards to your hand. Level 0 utility obviously being very highly valued in Weiss Schwarz right now. So I think the biggest problem for this card is not being able to add the cards to your hand using his climax combo. I feel like the biggest weakness of the card is not being able to use what you are given in a deck that has fairly limited hand fix. You have a Hisomu, but that is at the same time that's only a top check 1, so you have little control over what that card is. The next best thing would be the Yuta, obviously, but that is dependent on you playing bonds and is also not able to filter out multiple cards in your hand over or in a single turn. So you're given all this stuff, but the real problem is going to be finding some way to use it.
Yep, I think that's definitely a fair concern, and I think also because you're not running a level 0 bond combo in this build, you don't actually have a high number of bonds. So I think you actually run the brainstorm in this build. You don't run the user. I haven't had enough time to play around with it, but I have played a couple games with it, and it goes hot more often than I expected it to, so I have high hopes. But at this point, I don't know. I personally feel like the other builds are better.
In theory, the card is very strong. In practice, might have some consistency problems. I think that's the ultimate conclusion.
Yeah,
here.
I think I actually can. I think this is if I was gonna write a top 5 of the best cards in this set, I would actually probably put this in there. But yeah, I think because of the way the deck runs, I think maybe there are other cards which in a vacuum are worse. but in context are better, and I think we'll get onto one of those.
Okay, moving on to a card that is definitely worse. We have 1-0 Garbage Nico, aka 1-0 Terrible Nico, aka 1-0 Trash Nico. This card, we will never get enough of trash talking this card because it is just, oh my god,
It's so bad, man.
like,
It's so bad.
okay, next up we have the 1-0 Honoka. So this is another relevant climax combo in the set. I think the biggest problem with the card is your limited damage output by running this, because it is a 2k1 soul climax. The climax combo revolves around you reversing the opponent, so that by default means that your soul damage is lower than it could be, because by front attacking to get your stock, you're not directing, you're not getting soul. The Bonder does allow you to potentially give soul, but you would probably need to have 2 copies in order to match the soul value that a global soul climax would be giving you. In addition, not being able to side attack, or like giving all of your other characters this cannot side attack, this downside is not nearly as relevant when you have this card in multiples. But if you don't have multiple copies of this card and your field is not looking like something ideal, this can potentially bite you in the butt. And that's why I think this card, while it is good, it is pretty tricky to build around and play around.
Yeah, so I think that's sort of the tagline of this entire set is this card is good, but it's tricky to build around and play around. I think this is one of those cards where until you play it, you don't actually know how good it is. And this was actually the case for me. I severely underrated this card. I looked at it, I went 2k1, I went, okay, this is gonna, like, it's gonna be aight, but it's not gonna be like, you know, it's not gonna be the knees of the bees. But then I played it, and I realized that I was being a silly sausage, because swinging for 2-2-1 and 2-2-2 are functionally very similar. And you also have this sick 1-1 event, which allows you to shoot one of your opponent's characters in front row, which means you can play 2 of these, plus like a 0-0 Hisomu in your front row, and that's like your dream right there. That's such a dream setup.
That sounds pretty good. I honestly think, like, the big argument against the 1-1 event is that, like, everybody seems to be like, oh yeah, no, I don't want to kill my opponent's front row because I want to reverse them with Tenga or Honoka. But I feel like more so in the Honoka deck because it's a 2k1, but you just need, sometimes you just need to, like, not kill their thing with your reverse, and you just want to go for some damage.
Yeah, I think the really good thing about, well, if you get triple Honoka, obviously you're going for that, like, stock charge. Like, you're going well into, I have very few times gotten triple Honoka, but that might be because I have to test against power heavy decks, so I don't get to reverse things that often. But double Honoka is great, and getting that open slot where you can put, and I mentioned Hisomu because it's the card that I want to put there, into that open slot and just swing. I think that's really, really sexy. I think it's a neat interaction, which maybe was not intended.
I feel like a realistic field that you could see is, like, your opponent has 2 characters in their front row. Ideally, they're next to each other, I guess. You put the 2 Honokas in front of that. Your back row is like a Brainstorm plus Bonder or Yuta plus Bonder.
Yeah.
And then
I think definitely run Yuta in this build. Yeah.
And then your slot across from their open one, let's say it's like a second Bonder. So
yeah, you just chuck something in there. Yeah.
I mean, like second Bonder would allow you to up your damage output as well using the on climax playability.
That's a bit greedy. I think that's maybe greedy, but I think the other good thing about this is the Bonder for this, the 0-0 Nico, makes your Yuta Azusa much better, because it's a card that you are happy to play down and then sack when you have another one in hand and get the 2500. In fact, this is the deck which abuses the plus 2500 boost better than any other deck. The power on this card is actually kind of insane. Like, maybe the first one isn't going to be that heavy, but you can get a second Honoka up to, like, well above 12k. So I think this is it's a super hard build to play. I'm not gonna pretend that it's like autopilot magic, but it's really, really strong. I think it's definitely a consideration for everyone playing the set.
Alright, so next up we have the 1-0 oversize. Now, the main problem that I have with this card is that there's not a lot of very serviceable big beaters, big costless beaters. I mean, like, your other option is like Garbage Nico up there, and then you have this. And so the problem with this card, in my eyes, is that I feel like level 1, because it's so tricky to build around level 1, I feel like you might be kind of strapped for cards, at least before like you use Tenga to like get a bunch or something like that. And so potentially losing one, even though you're getting a stock out of it, I don't think is the best way to be playing for this, at least this set's level 1 game. I don't think you can afford to lose your resources that easily until you've hit level 2 and then you start to assert using early drops.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a fair perspective. I don't mind this card. I think that there's also a 1-0 trial deck 5k, which becomes a 7k when it's your last attacker, which is another really serviceable card. But it's in red.
That's the Katsuhira. I like that card.
Yeah, so I like that card as well. The reason I do I enjoy this one, is because it gives me another a source of mill, and I'm happy to play the odds more than most people. I mean, I'm happy to lose to a statistical anomaly. So if I'm playing this card once per game, which realistically I'm playing it once per game, I'm not going to hit a climax. In the long run, I'm not going to hit climaxes often enough for me to not justify running it. I know some people don't like to play the odds, and that's fine. More conservative players will want to run different cards. I also think because this is green, I was drawn to this card initially because it was green, and now I'm sort of like, my mindset's enjoys how it's run, because we didn't have certain other green level 0s to put into our level zone. So I ran this initially as a form of green fixing that could potentially go on board. But now it's just like, I mean, it's okay. There's definitely other options. If you want a 1-0-6-5 and you can afford to go into yellow, I recommend you actually play the promo Tengun instead.
The one that gains 15?
Yeah.
I agree there. Okay, next up, we have some red stuff. So we have Best Bonder, level 1 Suicider, reversing Suicider, and a pay 1 bond to the 3/2 Chidori. This card's just all around good value. So there's really not much to say about this card.
What if you had a card that said on play, discard 1, check top 4, add 1 to hand, ditch the rest, pay 1, add a 3/2 to your hand? Like, what if you had a card that said that?
Let's not go there.
And then on top of that, it said, this is a 1-0 bomb. Like,
let
This is so balked.
Well,
this is so balked.
You know what I think's the worst part about that is that it's within design space, because that would be a 500 power card.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't even stick around long enough on the board to die to Kaiki, so there's that too. Oh baby.
Such a crazy card.
That would be like Bushi, please, good meta plus. Oh baby.
I think this card is good enough that you should be playing red in every deck just because it exists.
I think if I had to pick 3 reasons to play red, it's 0-0 Shiori and Asuka by itself is a good reason to play red. This is a good reason to play red, and then 3/2 Katsuhira.
Yeah, pretty much. Red is actually the best color, by far. Which is kind of funny because it's not even the like the primary, like none of the standout boom boom cards except for Fried Chicken are in red, but it's just got so many incredible pieces in it.
Yeah, I agree.
Moving on.
Let's go down first because we have the bond targets on the right. So we have this 1/1 7k. It can't side, and then it has a climax combo with a stock soul. If it reverses an opponent's character, you can salvage 1. It has a clock bond with a 0-0 Chidori, which also gives it plus 500 and a level, I believe.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that increases the value of the card slightly. The fact that the stock soul climax refunds you 1 stock that you used to play this is pretty nice. And the fact that you can get this out of your waiting room with a clock bond that doesn't also cost stock is pretty cool.
I don't really think you play this in any. If you go into a tournament where you wanna be in top cut, I don't think you actually play this because your stock investment is not going to pay off. Because 7-5 base on defense is not good enough, and 9K after your 1-5 counter is still not good enough.
I
A lot of
think
things reverse you.
I think the biggest problem with the card is a problem that I have with a lot of, or pretty much every level 1 advantage combo that has cost, which is if
Yeah.
you are playing this without the climax, you played a 1-1 vanilla that can't side. That is a problem.
Pretty bad.
So, the combo itself is fine. The fact that it has a bond is also fine. The card is good. I could definitely see some people trying it out. It's not the greatest option, but it's not terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now we have the bonds, the bond targets for the Tenga from the TD. So there's two different versions. We have the top one, which is it is a clock encore that gives your opponent's character clock encore, and we have a vanilla. I talked about in my initial review that I am way biased towards the vanilla version because this is looking like a set where you want to starve your opponent of their resources, gain value through things like level 1 Suicider and your 3-2 Katsuhira. You want to be disrupting the opponent's strategy while at the same time bolstering your own. And giving your opponent free clock encore is not the way to do that.
Yeah, I actually think you this is the I think the logic behind this is a meme and a half. But I think if you run this card, you actually run the clock encore because you want to tempt your opponent to clock encore, and you just want to push them for damage because you're also playing the stock charge combo in the deck that runs this as the clock encore, and you want to use this as an artificial way of getting that extra soul damage. That's very, very like converse. But I think that's actually viable.
That's deep.
There's
that
a
is
lot
beyond
going on
that is
there.
beyond my understanding. Or I mean, I understand where you're coming from with that, but I just don't know.
Well, yeah, no, I don't know either, but I think okay, so I don't think there's a deck where you run the 1055 vanilla because Apples isn't good enough, and a 1065 is like there are so many other good 1065s in this set. So
Okay, well,
and you
let me
also-
let me ask you this at least.
yeah,
If you play the 1-0 on the top, do you
Yeah.
play it with or without the bonder?
without it,
Okay, so you just play it as a 1065
Yeah.
6K.
6K.
Okay, that's an interesting perspective, and this is why there's two people on this review and not one.
Yeah, I think maybe I'm the only person who's ever been like, geez, let's play this bond target without the bond. But I think it's actually, potentially if you're going into green red at level 1, which you are because you're playing 1-0 honkers and 1-0 chickens, then why not also play this 1-0 redhead stripper girl? And then you can just have your full complement.
Man, don't talk about my best girl like that.
Dude, they're all trash.
Why you gotta do me like that? All right,
They're
let's
all
move
2D.
on to the next page. We have.
They're not actually real. They're all voice actors.
All right,
They don't exist.
Phillip's about to give me shit for this first one. I
Oh my
I
God.
think this card is a good card.
Oh Lord.
1-0 book combo, on attack draw card, on play gains power times number of Kiznaiver characters that you have. I think this card is fine. Like, it bursts just as high as like Yuki. Granted, Yuki does have like some ridiculous hand fixing, stock fixing, compression. Like, I'm only comparing like the power part to that. But I mean, like this card can hit high enough to matter, and it gets you guaranteed card advantage that the other two, or I guess like the other three, can't do without like having some sort of risk or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a good card, definitely. I don't think you can call this great and not call the 1-0 Honecker great, but this is okay. This is the perspective I have on the card. I think it's obviously the most consistent advantage engine. I think you're trading off the Tenga. I don't see a compelling case to run a 1065 draw one over a 106k check top 2, add 0 to 1 to 2 to hand. I just think Tenga is better and it has a better trigger.
All right, we'll get to my deck list at the end because like I do run this card over the 1-0 Tenga because I have reasoning. I have reasoning behind that, which I will get to when we get to that point.
Also doesn't have a bond. Sick memes, bro.
It doesn't have a bond, which makes me sad.
Yep.
Okay. 1-0 Hisomu. This is a funny card. I think this is pretty cool. If you have one or fewer cards in clock, this can't attack. And so this means that he wants to hit himself, which is exactly what he does. He basically has clock bond to a blue event, which is a barrel event. You get to check up to top 4 for a Kizuna. It's blue Junketsu. So like, yeah, for those of you who play Kill a Kill, get that power up Setsune TM. And then he also has, when your opponent plays a climax, he kills himself. Awesome. Masochism at its best. He dodges on reverse combos. He's big on the offense. I just wish he killed himself like when they attack, so that way they don't get the extra soul damage out of it.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually a pretty solid card. I mean, these sorts of effects are always, you know, when you actually start playing and you realize that you're taking a bit of damage. That's why Accelerate's bad. TM. And it's kind of a weird profile when you think about it, being a 6/5 that kills itself. I mean, I guess it's kind of like a glass cannon in that sense that doesn't get on reverse comboed. In any case, it's good for fun decks.
Yeah, you just have to be careful though, because like if your opponent hits you to 0-6, then help.
Well, you clock 1 and then you do the clock bond.
And then you have 1 card in clock, and then this card can't attack.
You do it twice, fam.
Alright.
Welcome to the new age.
Fine. Okay. 1-1.
Axel world.
1-1 Nico. Front row center slot gets 2k, and then when you play the stock soul, you drop 1 to give 2 characters on reverse draw 1. So this suffers the same problem as like the other ones, where like you have pretty much like almost every combo in the set where you have little to no control about what you're getting because they're draws. 2k buff to center is relevant, I guess, but I don't think the whole package is enough to warrant this card being played over other back row.
Yep, I think this is like I think you actually maybe play this in the Nico build.
I don't even know, man.
No, I don't know how the Nico build works, man. It's just trash. But the one thing I have to say about this is I wish this was the art for the bodyguard.
Oh god. Oh my god.
And I wish it was just named Tenga as well. It would have been incredible.
That would be great. Yeah, personally, I just don't think that it's good enough to have a slot.
No, it's not. It's not.
The stock soul, sure. You can play the stock soul.
Yeah. I think the stock soul.
Just not the card itself.
Yep.
Okay, next up we have the 1-1 Sensei, which I found out is not Kizuna trait right before we started.
And now what is the rating of it?
I still think it's fine. It's a 1-0 costless counter that doesn't cost $4.
Sure. I mean, except it's off trait.
Hardly relevant. My climax combo is I draw cards. So if I draw this, then I draw it.
Yeah, but when you field this, because you're bonding for your Sonozaki, and then you play your 1-0 Sonozaki, it doesn't count as a Kizuna trait character, so you lose power.
I probably wouldn't play this to bond that early unless I really need the discard outlet.
You probably will. Honestly, I just don't even think you need the bond to the 3-2 Sonozaki, because I think the build that has 3-2 Sonozaki has so many ways of fishing it. And I think you just rather run the promo counter in any case. But, I mean, you know, this is on my my memes list of cards. This isn't on my goods. But, you know, horses for courses. Moving on.
Alright, next up we have the 1-0 Hisomu, aka this is not a 0-0, and that makes me very, very sad. On play, look at top 2 and rearrange. Why isn't this a 0-0?
So the thing is that, it seems like a good card, but you would just never run it. So I think that makes it a bad card.
Oh my! I'm like, I just look at the card and I'm like, oh yeah, this is good. Like I could definitely see this being used. Like I can realistically like I could see this being used somewhere, someplace, somehow.
Over the rainbow. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
So we have the 1/1 Utah counter. This mills your opponent for 3.
That's good.
Someone's gonna kill their opponent with this.
Yeah, man.
Um,
It's pretty dank.
I think it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. 1/0 Noriko now in the bottom left. I like this card a
Oh
lot.
lord, this is so good.
I really like this card. I think it's super cool. So it's a field counter. Pay 1, sack itself to give 2/5, but also has character encore, which means that you turn your entire hand into 1/0 or 1/1 2/5 counters.
I think people should read this card as well. What this card says is 1/0, and then it has continuous.
All characters in your
Yeah,
hand
exactly.
are 1/1 2500 counters.
Yep, that's not well. Yeah, it's pretty nuts though. Actually, like in so many other sets, this would be like the card that everyone feels. Okay, so I don't actually know what Attack on Titan is, but I know they have like a 1/05K that has this 2/5 effect, and like the 2/5 on field counter
Yeah,
effect.
yeah, it's just a field counter. It has a
And
bond though.
apparently people complain about that. So
Like
maybe
that
people will
it's OP
complain about
or
this.
what?
Well, that it's good. Yeah, I don't know. But field counters are good. I mean, look at the whatchamacall, Wawawiwu, the boats
Oh,
one,
the
the
Haguro one, the
blue
one that I used at level 2.
Sure. Yeah, I mean that card is good, and this card is that card, but you can recur it infinitely if you want to.
Well,
The only
the
downside
way
about
I
this is
well the way I used that 2/1 when I played it was I used a hand on core support, so everything in my hand was
Okay, yeah.
literally a no stock cost 3K punch.
Seems legit, man.
Yeah.
I think
The only thing you really have to watch out is that because this triggers before your opponent uh, does their trigger check. If you give a 2500 buff and then they win, you are very sad.
yeah, you're pretty sad.
So just watch out for that.
Oh, it's also on reverse combo fodder, but you should, yeah.
I don't know. I'd put this in back row.
Yeah, well, I think I was gonna just say, I think you want to put this in back row.
Yeah. Okay. And it has a bonder, which is cool.
Yep, it does.
All right, now we have the 1/0 TD Katsuhira. In retrospect, this should probably be on my deck list, but it's not,
Yep.
so I might throw it in later. This is actually a pretty good candidate for the clock on core support. I don't know why I didn't think about it before. But yeah, so this has when another Kiznaiver character attacks, this gains 1k for the turn. You obviously don't want to play too many of this in your deck because having multiple copies of it on your field is like, one of these is going to be 6k at the most.
I think two is the right number.
I think 2 is correct. If I do
Yeah, it's a good
decide,
card, yeah.
if I do decide to drop my 1/0 counters, this is going in.
Yeah, I think this is strong. So good stuff.
All right. Now we have the last of the 1/0s.
Wow.
We have the we have the 1/0 Tenga, which was brought up earlier. It's obviously not the greatest card. I mean, it's got like burst 15, which is fine. 6/5 is a decent enough number. I just don't know if you play it over other cards.
I think it does exactly what you want it to do, and then it dies. So I'm happy with that.
I guess. And then we have a 1/0 counter, which is good. It's also $4. It's also Best Girl. That's about it.
Yeah. It,
And now we have PR Noriko, which got my Bushi, please. So its front, all characters get Clock Encore. This is relevant at more than just level 1. Like, this card is a level 1, but realistically, it's a card that is going to get the most bang for your buck when you hit level 2. If your opponent expends a lot of resources to get over your high-value 3/2s, which you're inevitably going to play, because that is how you want to play level 2 in this set. Just being able to clock encore those big level 3s is just such a great effect to have. The second ability is probably the more relevant ability when you're at level 1. Being able to give one of your characters 1k on a climax play, just get that little extra punch. And I think the card is just really, really good in maintaining value.
Yeah, I think the really good thing about this is it means you can recur 1-0 advantage combo tankers, which makes that card a lot better. Because it means you have more opportunities to go nutso. So that means over a 2-turn cycle, so you sort of now you have to broaden your mathematical horizons a little bit more. And instead of considering, I want to play 2 1-0 tankers and go +2 or +3 over 1 turn, you want to play 2 1-0 tankers and recur both of them, and you want to go +4 to +6 over the space of 2 turns. And if you're able to get somewhere in that range, then you're above par. And this just gives you more opportunities to go above par. It also gives you more opportunities to go below par. So basically, learn how to count cards. Also, this dies to Wingslayer, so it must be terrible.
Yeah, this is true. This definitely dies to Wingslayer. Okay.
But, what's that card anyway?
Which card? Wingslayer?
Wingslayer.
Wangslayer?
Something like that.
Well, okay, let's pull out the checklist. We've made a Kaiki joke, we've made a Wingslayer joke. It's joke.
Nico's trash.
We have that too now. Okay. I think next is just the garbage level 1s page. We have 2 niche cards that go into the Gomorin deck.
Yep.
One of them is just a 6/5 beater. The other one is a burst attacker that gains 4k and it has hand encore. And then we have the garbage. Yeah, this is the stuff that I think is garbage. Anything on this?
Yeah, I think the 1-0 Honoka is the
zombie
in the build where you're running, like in the mono green build where you're running 4 Rurus anyway.
I guess.
So it's a 107k zombie.
I guess.
But yeah, otherwise everything else is trash, and the 1/1 old dude is kind of funny in the Gomorin build.
Dude, I was reading that card, and then I read up to salvage one character, and I was like, oh my god! And then I saw discard one. I was just, all right, never mind. Fuck this card.
It's still a hand fix.
I get you have to play it in your deck though.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Okay. Okay, so we're at a half hour. We're at over a half hour on this. I think we'll just cut and then go into level 0s.
Alright. Stay tuned.
What he said.